Hi, Julia, and thanks very much for joining me today. It's great to see you. Julia Bramble is an award-winning consultant, trainer, and speaker on lead generation from social media. I've heard very good things about you. I know a couple of people you work for, and they're doing well. You're very successful at it, and you're a mum of six, I believe. So I hope I've done my research correctly, and I'm
Yeah,
sure I've probably missed something. But first of all, Julia, could you just tell me a bit about your business and how you got started?
yeah, I got started because I'm actually by training a scientist. So I've got a PhD in molecular biology, and I spent many years working in forensic science, which was great. But as you can imagine, trying to work that around lots and lots of children, increasing numbers of children, is quite difficult. But actually, it all came to a crunch when, as a service, the forensic science service kind of people, smaller businesses that were coming online at the time. So they had to restructure. They got rid of their part-timers, which I was by then. And so I was looking for something new that I could do and very much work around the children. And I've always had this idea of going out and doing my own thing. I didn't find bosses very easy to work for, it has to be said. So I was looking for a franchise because I thought that would be a really good way in. So I ended up on lots of people's lists. I was getting lots of emails about building a franchise, buying a franchise, building a small business marketing. Then at the same time, my oldest daughter, was 12, 13, so she was looking at jumping on Facebook. And I hadn't really, at that time, to be honest, taken much notice of social media because I didn't have time for it. But I've always loved keeping in touch with friends. I've always loved being able to chat and have conversations. So I started looking at this, and very soon I was hooked on that side. But at the same time, I was still getting all this information through about small business marketing. And the two just kind of collided at the same time. So there were tiny little shoots going out there about maybe using social media for business. And I just kind of jumped on that, and I thought, you know what, could actually make a business out of this, and about helping businesses, turning the social media thing into much more of a process, which is, of course, what I did in my scientific days, paying attention to the detail, paying attention to the results. So I went off and did some basic training, and here I am today. I've been training myself ever since because nothing stays still in social media for more than about 6 months at a time.
Have you got any advice on how to identify a target audience?
Yeah, it's always a really tricky one, isn't it? Especially when you're starting out. I think if you are starting out, you just have to do a little bit of guesswork and think about the kind of person that you would love to work with. So say if you've got a friend or somebody that you already know who's got the characteristics of someone that you think you would love to work with, then maybe use them as a basis for trying to build this profile or this avatar of your ideal customer or client. Or you might start working with somebody or a business or a new customer that you've never thought about working with that type of person before, and suddenly something gels and it's absolutely brilliant. So you want to go off down that route. But in terms of finding your target market, if you can hone in on a particular type of person that you want to be your customer or client, if you can think about how it is that you help them and how they feel about that, maybe before and afterwards, how much knowledge they've actually got around. But actually, when it comes to buying something and getting someone to connect with you, if you can actually get into what's going on in there.
How do you personally deal with setbacks?
I one thing I've got much better at recently, which might help people avoid feeling a bit mare in the first place, is not looking at what everyone else is doing on social media and judging myself by comparison. Because as we all know, social media is a highlights reel of people's lives. So it can be very easy to get sucked into this and think, oh my God, I'm doing rubbish compared to so-and-so. Actually, you're just seeing the best bits of their lives. So I think that's one thing, that's a lesson that I've learned the hard way. So I have got sucked into that. The way that I deal with setbacks is I am starting to think a lot more about what I'm grateful about day to day, and that really does help. I've always done it, but now I'm doing it in a much more focused way. that really helps. Plus, I've got amazing friends and colleagues, largely that I've met through social media, that I can just talk to in a quick private message and say, oh, it's not been brilliant today, or something. And I know they would throw something back positive if I needed to. Or if it really is one of those days that we all get occasionally where it's just a complete mare, just go off and do something else. Don't beat yourself up. Because at the end of the day, it's just another day. And there is, I promise you, there is always another opportunity around the corner. If that opportunity didn't work out for whatever reason, we live in the age where we can go out and talk to anybody that we want to in the entire world using our social media. There's always another opportunity. I think I do a lot of it by osmosis, but it sounds really odd. But because I'm kind of on social all the time, I'm just soaking up blogs for new developments, and my head, as I'm sure everybody else is working all the time. So there is one part of it that's that. But then I do have to literally carve out time. I have to put time in my diary to say go and do that course on whatever that I've just bought. Because otherwise you end up buying all these courses and they just sit on your online shelf somewhere and get dusty, don't they? Unless you actually go out and do this stuff and learn it and implement it. I think that's the thing. We can learn so much these days. We're surrounded by information. It's only actually maybe when we start to go and think it through or actually do this stuff that we actually really learn it and take it on board. But it can be really hard because I know that I, for a long time, have felt guilty about kind of taking time out to think or to learn or to put stuff in place. But I think we absolutely have to do it for the good of our businesses. So don't feel that like you're slacking just because you need to go off and learn something or because you need some quiet space to think and actually plan something through. This actually is a really integral part of growing our businesses. So yeah, carving out the time and giving yourself the mental space, I think, as well.
What have you found have been the advantages of being self-employed?
Oh, a zillion things. Just like being able to be here because I work from home, don't have an office. Being able to be here after school with the children. And if I'm not here for 2 or 3 days on the trot with some appointments or I'm giving talks or whatever, they really notice. And the whole atmosphere is very different and they become very clingy. And so from that, they might not, even come and talk to me that much after school, but I know that they know that I'm here and I know that I'm missed and I'm not missed. So that is just amazing. Being able to also structure your own calendar, how you like it, not having a boss that you don't respect that you actually have to work for. It's still a really big one for me because I just used to have such a hard time with people. So I know that it can be really, really tough, but for me, the pros just outweigh the cons massively. Just being able to sit here if you wanted to, I'm not actually, but you could sit here in your PJs or your slippers, couldn't you? No one knows what you're wearing, what you're doing. You can work from your bed. Oh, yeah, it's the freedom, isn't it? It's the freedom thing. But I think there's two forms of freedom. There's the freedom that we've got because we're working from home and doing our thing and organising it our way. Then there's the freedom thing that you get all these big internet marketers talking about, the financial freedom and their 7-figure this, that and the others and their brand new cars and stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be that way. Your business is what you make of it and what you want it to be. And you don't have to go for flashy cars and the 6 figures and goodness knows what else. Again, it's the freedom of choice.
And finally, Julia, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who was thinking of setting up their own business?
I would say if you possibly can, talk to people who've maybe gone that route already. Not that you want to copy what they're doing, because I think going your own way and standing out from the crowd is very important. But there might be some really useful information they can pass on to you. Sort of stuff like, if you go on a course and you maybe pay quite a lot of money for a course, and you come away with just one thing, but you realise actually that's so invaluable for maybe the next 2 years, you could probably pick that up by talking to people. But talk to people who are already doing it. Don't just talk to people who are thinking about doing it. So be a very different energy about them. Talk to people who are doing it and doing it successfully. If you want to talk to your family and friends about what you're going to do, then go ahead, but have a sanity check, because very often our family and our friends like it when we remain the same person that we were. So sometimes they can find it a bit challenging when we go off and do something new. So much as they might love you, you might get messages from them that aren't entirely positive. And they might be saying the words, but there might be this kind of undercurrent going on. So just be aware that you might not necessarily get the support that you think you're going to get from family and friends, and you might actually find that you get support from, say, people that you meet online, Twitter, for example. You might come across a brilliant supportive community there. So look for opportunity when you can find it. Talk to people who are already doing something along the lines of what you want to do and who are passionate about it, because that passion will rub off from you. And don't listen to the naysayers, because I'm afraid there will be some of them, but actually it's all about you carving out your journey. And be yourself. Definitely be yourself. When I first started out, I kind of didn't talk about the children, and I made out that I worked in an office and all this kind of stuff. It's rubbish. Just go out there and be yourself. Absolutely fine in this day and age.
Thank you very much, Julia.